All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Expo Rail,
Yeah.
Canada's largest railway museum.
All right.
And what makes this deep dive so interesting is the source that we're using.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blog post by Roberta from Wanderlust Over 70.
Oh, cool.
And she's a senior traveler.
Okay.
So, she's going to give us like the down low on what to really expect when going to this museum.
Right, the practical tips and stuff.
Yeah. What's great
What's that?
is that she doesn't just gush about the place.
Mm-hmm.
She gives real insider tips,
Okay.
like right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like pack a lunch.
Ooh,
And that kind of gave me a clue, like, okay,
interesting.
maybe the food options there are limited.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like maybe they want to keep the focus on the exhibits,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe, spaces at a premium.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a combination of things.
Yeah.
Museums often have to, balance their resources between preserving artifacts, maintaining the historical integrity of their buildings.
Yeah.
So that could limit the space for like a big, cafeteria or restaurant.
That's true. And if you're spending a solid like 3 to 4 hours there,
Wow.
which is what she recommends to really soak it all in,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to fuel up.
You got it.
Speaking of soaking it in, this place is huge.
That is, yeah.
Over 160 vehicles.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of train history
Yeah, that's amazing.
to take in.
So where is this museum located?
So it's in St. Constant,
Okay.
Quebec,
Mm-hmm.
easy drive from Montreal.
All right, so road trip. Yeah,
Perfect. And they have just like a diverse collection of everything,
Like what?
like from steam locomotives to electric engines,
Wow.
passenger cars, freight cars,
Okay.
and even some unique pieces like
Yeah.
the Wadden train engine,
Oh.
the inspiration for Thomas the Tank Engine.
No way.
Yes,
Oh, I love
a
Tom.
real-life engine
Wow.
that inspired the stories.
That's incredible.
Ah.
So what kind of engine is it?
So it's an A1XS,
Yeah.
which is a type of small shunting engine,
Mm.
primarily used for moving wagons in railway yards and docks.
Huh. Interesting.
And apparently only a handful of these engines
Wow.
are left in the world.
So it's a rare...
It's a rare piece of history.
And it's connected to Thomas.
I know.
That's great.
That's got to be a big draw for families,
I would think so, yeah.
especially kids who grew up watching Thomas.
Absolutely. I bet it sparks their interest in railway history.
For sure. And you know what I like about Roberta's post?
What's that?
Is she really emphasizes
Yeah.
not rushing the indoor exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
She spent a good 4 hours at Expo Rail
Wow.
with her son.
That's a good chunk of time.
And she's even joking that his initial estimate of 2 to 3 hours was way off.
So there's a lot to see.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It's not just about showcasing trains.
Right.
It's about diving into the history,
Mm-hmm.
their impact on society.
The stories they represent. Mm-hmm. And the stories they represent.
I like that.
I feel like this is the kind of museum where you could easily spend the whole day
Yeah,
and still not see everything.
probably.
But, she gives us some good recommendations.
Okay, let's hear them.
So she really highlights the trolley ride as a must-do.
A trolley ride.
Yeah, even though it's a short trip, it's more about the experience and the ambiance, the historical significance of the trolley line.
Mm-hmm.
She also highlights the miniature train ride,
Oh, that's cute.
which I think would be a huge hit with kids.
Yeah, for sure.
But she's a little less enthusiastic about the vintage train ride.
Interesting.
So I'm thinking that one's kind of a personal preference.
Yeah, some people love vintage trains.
Right.
Some people are more into the modern high-speed rail,
Exactly.
the freight locomotives,
Yeah, and Expo Rail really seems to cater to a wide range of interests.
You got it something for everyone.
Yeah, and another thing she mentions is the model train room. Oh, cool.
For enthusiasts.
Okay.
And get this,
Huh.
there's a Lego train set up nearby.
Ah, that's awesome.
I know.
That's a nice touch.
It's those little details, that make a museum experience memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about creating an environment where visitors can connect with the exhibits on different levels, whether it's the history, the technology, or just the joy of play.
So we've covered like the basics, location size, some of the highlights.
Right.
But what about like the practical stuff?
Yes. What about it?
We know Roberta recommends packing a lunch,
Right.
but she also gives some other helpful tips.
Like what?
Arrive early.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, maximize your time.
Especially with a museum this big.
Exactly, and especially if you're with kids.
Definitely, yeah. You don't want to be rushed
Right.
or miss out on anything.
And she mentions they have ample free parking.
Oh, that's always a plus.
I know.
You don't have to worry about finding a spot or paying an arm and a leg.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So we got the logistics covered.
All right.
Now let's get into the heart of Expo Rail.
Okay.
The collection and the stories.
Let's do it.
Starting with that Wadden train engine.
Right. The Thomas inspiration.
Mm-hmm. It's housed in this outdoor shed.
Okay.
And it's one of the museum's most popular exhibits.
I bet.
Okay, so we know it's this rare A1XS engine.
Right.
But what's the story behind it?
Yeah, what makes it so special?
Well, these A1XS engines were primarily used for shunting.
Shunting.
Which is basically moving wagons around.
Okay.
In railway yards and docks.
Gotcha.
They were small, but powerful.
Okay.
Capable of maneuvering heavy loads in tight spaces.
I see.
The Wadden engine specifically was built in 1937
Okay.
and worked in a British railway yard for many years.
Huh. Wow, so it's seen some action.
It has.
So how did it end up in Canada?
Well, in the 1960s,
Okay.
it was purchased by a private collector and then eventually made its way to Canada.
Right.
It was later donated to Expo Rail.
Wow.
Where it underwent extensive restoration.
That's great. They brought it back to its former glory.
They did.
That's awesome.
And now it's like a star attraction.
Yeah.
Inspiring a new generation.
It's a testament to the enduring appeal of trains, you know, even in our modern age.
Right.
With high-speed rail and self-driving cars, there's still something about trains that captures the imagination.
For sure.
And the Wadden engine with that Thomas connection embodies that perfectly.
It's like this bridge between generations.
Yeah.
Connecting those childhood memories with the real-world history and engineering behind them.
I love that.
And I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the fascinating stories that Expo Rail has to tell.
I think you're right. There's so much more to uncover.
All right, so let's keep digging.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the Wadden engine and Roberta's tips, but I'm curious, what really struck you about Expo Rail? Why do you think someone who maybe isn't a diehard train fan should consider this for their travel list?
You know, for me, it's the way Expo Rail connects the evolution of railways to the broader story of Canada.
Yeah.
It's not just about the trains themselves, but how they shaped the landscape, the economy, even the national identity of the country.
You can't talk about Canada's history without talking about the railroads.
Exactly.
They were so instrumental in connecting those vast distances from coast to coast.
Imagine the challenge
Oh my God.
of building a transcontinental railway.
Right.
Across rugged terrain and forests.
Right.
Over mountains.
It's mind-boggling when you think about the scale of the project and the technology that they had back then.
Yeah.
No GPS, no heavy machinery like we have today.
It was a true feat of engineering.
It was
perseverance.
And it really had a profound impact on how Canada developed.
It did.
You know, the railways facilitated trade. They opened up new territories for settlement, played a crucial role in uniting the country.
For sure, both physically and economically.
So it's not just about the trains, but the ripple effects they had on Canadian society.
Absolutely.
And Expo Rail gives you that context.
It goes beyond just showcasing the trains.
Yeah.
It delves into the historical context, the impact, the legacy.
You know, it's funny. Roberta doesn't explicitly mention this in her post.
Yeah.
But it makes me think about that romanticized view we have of train travel.
I know what you mean.
You know, that sense of adventure, the nostalgia.
Right.
Do you think Expo Rail taps into that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The museum itself is housed in this beautifully restored historic railway station.
Oh, wow.
Which instantly sets the tone. And then you have the collection of locomotives and passenger cars.
Right.
Many of which have been restored to their former glory.
It's like stepping back in time.
It is.
You can almost imagine yourself as a passenger on one of those grand transcontinental journeys.
Gazing out the window at the passing scenery.
And it's not just visual.
Right.
It's sensory.
You can hear the hiss of the steam.
Oh, yeah.
The chugging of the wheels, the clang of the bell.
It's like the trains are whispering stories.
Exactly.
But
each train has its own story.
Yeah.
Its own place in history.
And speaking of stories,
okay,
I was really intrigued by Roberta's description of the model train room.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like a mini world.
It is. It's incredible. Yeah. These intricate layouts with tiny trains going through towns over bridges.
Past these little detailed landscapes.
Yeah. And of course, the Lego trains set up nearby.
Which is always a hit.
Always a hit.
I love that they included that.
It's not just about fun.
Right.
Although that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But it also demonstrates the principles of engineering and design in a way that everyone can understand.
It's that hands-on interactive element.
Exactly. And it bridges the gap between those historical exhibits and the present day.
Right. Showing how those principles are still relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're making a strong case for adding Expo-Rail to my list.
Good.
I can picture myself there now, just wandering through those exhibits,
Yep.
soaking it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even taking a ride on a vintage train.
I think you'd really enjoy it.
I have one more question, though.
Okay.
We've been talking about the historical significance of railways,
Yeah.
their impact on society,
Right.
but I'm also curious about the environmental aspect.
That's a good point.
Something Roberta didn't touch on,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a big consideration these days.
It is a crucial part of the conversation.
Yeah.
While railways have historically been seen as a more environmentally friendly option.
Right. Compared to like air travel or trucking.
Exactly.
There are still environmental impacts to consider.
right.
What specifically?
Well, you have fuel consumption and emissions.
Yeah, even with modern locomotives.
Exactly. And then there's noise pollution.
Right.
Which can be disruptive to communities.
Yeah.
And wildlife.
And then what about like the construction and expansion of railways?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Fragmenting ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Disrupting natural migration patterns.
So it's complex.
It is.
With trade-offs to consider.
Right. On one hand, railways are this efficient way to transport goods and people.
Yeah, over long distances.
But on the other hand,
there are those environmental costs associated with them.
It's a balancing act.
It is.
And I think Expo-Rail provides an opportunity to really reflect on that complexity.
Yeah.
As we celebrate the achievements of railways,
Right.
we should also be mindful of their impact.
Right.
And think about how we can mitigate those going forward.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Between preserving our history and protecting the planet.
Exactly. And that's a challenge we face in so many areas of life.
It's a great point to ponder. As we continue our deep dive into Expo-Rail. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
In our deep dive into Expo-Rail.
Yeah, from like planning your visit
Right.
to, the impact of railways on society and the environment.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much to think about.
There is, and we've only scratched the surface.
I know.
There are so many more stories to uncover within those exhibits.
Right.
About the people who built and operated those machines.
Yeah.
And how they shaped the world we live in today.
I'm definitely adding this to my travel list.
Good.
And I bet our listeners are too.
I hope so.
But before we wrap up, I thought it'd be fun to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
What if we put them in the driver's seat, so to speak?
Okay, I'm listening.
All right, so imagine yourself at Expo-Rail.
Okay.
Standing in front of one of those magnificent steam locomotives. You hear the hiss of the steam.
Oh, yeah.
You smell the coal and the oil.
Right.
You can feel the heat radiating from that massive boiler. Wow.
Yeah. What thoughts and emotions come to mind?
I think I'd be struck by the sheer scale and power of it all.
Yeah.
These machines were the cutting edge of technology back then.
Mm-hmm. Symbols of progress and innovation.
And they were also symbols of human ingenuity.
Right.
And determination.
Think about the engineers who designed these complex machines.
Yeah.
The workers who built them.
Mm-hmm.
The crews who operated them in those tough conditions.
There's a whole human story woven into the fabric of those trains.
Yeah, generations of people whose lives were touched by the railways.
And it's not just the past.
Right.
It's the future, too. We're facing these challenges today like climate change.
Right.
The need for more sustainable transportation.
Exactly.
And we can learn a lot from the past.
We can.
Maybe Expo-Rail isn't just a museum, but a source of inspiration.
For the future.
For the future of transportation.
It's a place to reflect on how far we've come and where we're going.
Maybe it'll spark some new ideas about mobility and connectivity.
So for our listeners, here's a challenge.
Okay.
As you plan your trip to Expo-Rail, don't just think about what you'll see.
Right.
Think about what you'll feel.
How it'll make you feel.
Yeah, what you'll learn.
What questions it might spark.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to let your imagination run wild.
Use your imagination.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll design the next generation of trains.
Right.
Or solve a transportation challenge.
Who knows?
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Expo-Rail.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. It's been a journey through time, technology,
Yeah.
the power of human ingenuity.
Absolutely.
And remember,
What's that?
the journey doesn't end here.
Keep exploring. Keep learning. And keep those wheels turning.
Until next time.
See you then.